The rain hammered Seattle's streets, a relentless drumbeat that matched the chaos in Alex's chest as he stood outside the rusty Anchor, the bar's neon sign flickering in the downpour. Ryan was waiting inside. Ryan, his best friend's boyfriend, the one person he shouldn't be meeting. One reckless kiss a week ago had shattered the boundaries of their friendship. And now, with every step toward the door, Alex felt the weight of betrayal pulling him under. He shouldn't be here. But he couldn't stay away. Inside, the bar hummed with life. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air as Alex scanned the crowd. Jamie's birthday party was in full swing, a chaotic mix of their old college crew and new faces from their Seattle circle. Jamie, always the life of the party, was at the center, his infectious grin lighting up the room. Alex's stomach twisted. Jamie had been his rock since their freshman year at UW, the one who'd stood by him when his family turned their backs after he came out. And now, Alex was betraying him. He spotted Ryan in a corner booth, nursing a beer, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp, searching, their gazes locked, and Alex's breath caught. Ryan's presence had always been magnetic, but tonight it felt dangerous, like a current ready to pull him under. Alex forced his feet to move, weaving through the crowd until he reached the booth. "You came," Ryan said, his voice low, almost drowned by the music. There was no accusation, just a quiet intensity that made Alex's pulse race. "I shouldn't have," Alex replied, sliding into the seat across from him. His hands fidgeted, betraying the calm he tried to project. "We need to talk about what happened." Ryan leaned forward, elbows on the table. The kiss. The word hung between them, heavy and undeniable. A week ago, at Jamie's last party, they'd been left alone when Jamie passed out on the couch. The conversation had turned personal, raw, and before Alex could process it, Ryan's lips were on his. A fleeting, reckless moment that burned itself into his memory. They'd pulled apart, both stunned, but the damage was done. Alex had spent every day since drowning in guilt, unable to look Jamie in the eye. "We can't do this," Alex said now, his voice barely steady. "Jamie's my best friend. He trusts us." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "I know, but you felt it too, didn't you? That pull." Alex's throat went dry. He wanted to deny it, to say it was a mistake, but the truth clawed at him. That kiss hadn't just been a lapse in judgment. It had awakened something he'd buried deep, something he'd never dared to face in their conservative circle of friends. Being openly gay in Seattle's progressive bubble was one thing, but their group, with its old-school values and subtle judgments, was another. Alex had learned early to keep parts of himself hidden. "Don't say that," Alex whispered, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. The bar was loud, but he felt exposed, like their secret was written in the air between them. "This can't happen again." Ryan didn't respond right away. He took a slow sip of his beer, his eyes never leaving Alex's. "Then why are you here?" The question hit like a punch. Alex opened his mouth to answer, but the words wouldn't come. Why was he here? He could have ignored Ryan's text, could have stayed home and let the guilt consume him in private. But the truth was, he'd felt that pull, too. A dangerous, magnetic force that made him question everything. Before he could respond, Jamie's laugh cut through the noise. Alex's head snapped up as Jamie approached, a beer in each hand, his grin wide, but his eyes tired. "You two hiding over here?" he teased, sliding into the booth next to Ryan. "Come on, it's my birthday. No moping allowed." Alex forced a smile, his heart pounding. "Just catching up," he said, his voice tight. Jamie didn't seem to notice, but Ryan's gaze lingered, heavy with unspoken words. The night wore on, and Alex tried to lose himself in the party. He laughed at Jamie's stories, clinked glasses with their friends, but every moment felt like a performance. Ryan's presence was a constant weight, pulling his attention even when he tried to ignore it. When Jamie got dragged into a drunken karaoke duet, Alex and Ryan were left alone again. The booth suddenly too small. "We need to stop this," Alex said, his voice low but firm. "Whatever this is, it's not worth losing him." Ryan leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to hurt him either, but I can't stop thinking about you, Alex. Can you honestly say you don't feel the same?" Alex's breath hitched. He wanted to lie, to shut this down before it went any further. But the truth was a traitor. He felt it. Every glance, every accidental brush of their hands, every moment they stole in the chaos of the party. It was wrong, and he hated himself for it. But it was real. "I don't know what I feel," Alex admitted, his voice breaking. "But Jamie doesn't deserve this." Ryan's eyes softened, but there was no regret there, only conflict. "I know, but we're already in too deep." The words sent a chill through Alex. He wanted to argue, to walk away, but before he could, Jamie's voice rang out again, calling them over for a group photo. Alex stood, his legs unsteady, and followed Ryan back into the crowd. As they posed for the picture, Jamie's arms slung carelessly around Ryan's shoulders, Alex felt the tension coil tighter. This wasn't just a kiss anymore. It was a secret that could unravel everything. As the night ended, Alex stepped back into the rain, the cold biting at his skin. Ryan lingered by the door, watching him. "We'll figure this out," Ryan said, his voice low but certain. Alex didn't respond. He turned and walked away, the rain soaking through his jacket. But the storm inside him was louder. He knew this was only the beginning, and whatever came next would test everything: his friendship, his identity, and the fragile line between desire and betrayal. The Seattle skyline blurred past Alex's bus window, the city's lights streaking like accusations in the dusk. It had been 10 days since the kiss at Jamie's party, and the memory still burned. Ryan's lips, the reckless heat, the guilt that followed like a shadow. Alex had promised himself he'd stay away, but Ryan's texts kept coming, each one a pull he couldn't resist. Tonight, he was breaking that promise, heading to a quiet park across town where no one would know them. His phone buzzed again. "I'm here, by the fountain." Alex's stomach twisted, but he didn't turn back. The park was empty, save for the soft hum of crickets and the distant rush of traffic. Ryan stood by the fountain, hands in his pockets, his posture tense but steady. Alex approached, every step heavy with the weight of what they were doing. "We shouldn't be here," he said, stopping a few feet away. Ryan's eyes met his, unflinching. "You didn't have to come." The words stung, but they were true. Alex could have deleted the message, could have blocked Ryan's number and buried this mistake. But he hadn't. The truth was he didn't want to. "What are we doing, Ryan?" he asked, his voice low, almost swallowed by the night air. "Jamie trusts us. It's wrong." Ryan stepped closer, his voice quiet but firm. "I know it's wrong, but I can't pretend I don't feel something, can you?" Alex's breath caught. He wanted to deny it, to cling to the loyalty he owed Jamie, but the pull between them was undeniable. That kiss hadn't just been a moment, it had cracked open something inside him, a longing he'd kept locked away. Growing up in a family that called his identity a sin, Alex had learned to hide, to blend in with their conservative Seattle circle. But with Ryan, he felt exposed, alive, and terrified, all at once. "I feel it," Alex admitted, the words slipping out before he could stop them. "But Jamie's my best friend. He was there when my family cut me off. I can't do this to him." Ryan's jaw tightened, and for a moment he looked away, as if wrestling with his own guilt. "I don't want to hurt him either, but every time I'm with him I'm thinking about you. It's not fair to any of us." The confession hit Alex like a wave, pulling him deeper into the mess they'd made. He took a step back, needing distance, but Ryan closed it, his hand brushing Alex's arm. The touch was brief, but it sent a jolt through him, reigniting the memory of their kiss. "We need to stop," Alex said, his voice shaking, "before this goes any further." Ryan nodded, but his eyes told a different story. "I'll try, but I don't know if I can." The next few days were torture. Alex avoided Jamie's calls, unable to face the friend he was betraying. But Ryan's messages kept coming, cautious at first, then bolder, pulling Alex back despite his resolve. They met again, this time at a late-night coffee shop on the edge of town. The conversation started innocently: work, music, shared memories. But it always circled back to the unspoken. Each meeting chipped away at Alex's willpower, the guilt warring with the thrill of being near Ryan. One night, as they sat in Ryan's car outside the shop, the air thick with tension, Ryan leaned closer. "I told Jamie I was working late," he said, his voice low. "He doesn't know I'm here." Alex's heart pounded. "We're playing with fire," he whispered, but he didn't move away. Ryan's hand found his, their fingers intertwining, and for a moment the world outside disappeared. It was just them, caught in a secret that felt both wrong and inevitable. The meetings continued, each one more reckless than the last. A quick coffee turned into a walk through a deserted park, then a late-night drive where they talked until dawn. Alex knew every moment was a betrayal, but he couldn't stop. Ryan was a mirror, reflecting parts of himself he'd hidden for years, his fears, his desires, the ache of living half a life to avoid judgment. Their circle of friends, with their subtle comments about those people, had always kept Alex on edge. With Ryan he could breathe, even if it was through a haze of guilt. But the secrecy was suffocating. Every time Alex saw Jamie, the weight of the lie grew heavier. Jamie invited him to a game night, his usual grin in place, oblivious to the storm brewing. Alex went, hoping normalcy would ground him. But Ryan was there too, sitting across the table. Their eyes met too often, their laughs too forced. When Jamie stepped out to grab food, the silence between them crackled. "We're going to get caught," Alex said, his voice barely audible. "This has to end." Ryan leaned forward, his hand inches from Alex's. "I don't want it to end. Do you?" Alex's chest tightened. He wanted to say yes, to end this before it destroyed everything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he stood, muttering an excuse about needing air, and left before Jamie returned. Outside, the cold bit at his skin, but it couldn't drown out the truth. He was falling for Ryan, and it was tearing him apart. As he walked home, his phone buzzed. A text from Jamie. "You okay? You seemed off tonight." Alex stared at the screen, guilt clawing at him. He typed a quick reply, claiming he was just tired, but the lie tasted bitter. The tension was building, a storm ready to break, and Alex knew they couldn't keep this up much longer. Every stolen moment with Ryan pushed them closer to the edge, and when they fell, nothing would be the same. The Cascade Mountains loomed dark against the twilight sky as Alex tossed another log onto the campfire, its crackle barely drowning out the unease twisting in his gut. Jamie's idea of a group camping trip, a chance to reconnect with their old college crew, felt like a trap waiting to spring. 2 weeks had passed since Alex's last secret meeting with Ryan, and though he'd sworn to stop, the pull between them hadn't faded. Now, surrounded by friends whose casual judgments about people like them still stung, Alex felt the weight of their secret like a blade at his throat. Jamie sprawled on a nearby log, roasting marshmallows with his usual easy grin, oblivious to the tension coiling tighter with every glance Alex stole at Ryan. Ryan sat across the fire, his posture stiff, his eyes darting to Alex too often for comfort. Their friends, a mix of old UW classmates and new Seattle faces, laughed and swapped stories, but Alex caught the undercurrent of their whispers, sideways comments about lifestyles that made his skin crawl. He'd spent years dodging those judgments, keeping his identity quiet to avoid their scrutiny. Now, with Ryan so close, that careful mask felt like it was cracking. "Yo, Alex, you're quiet tonight," Jamie called, tossing a marshmallow his way. "What's up? You brooding or just tired?" Alex forced a laugh, catching the marshmallow. "Just soaking it all in," he lied, his voice steadier than he felt. Jamie's trust was a knife in his chest, sharpened by every moment he'd spent with Ryan behind his back. He risked a glance at Ryan, who was staring into the fire, his jaw tight. The air between them hummed with unspoken words, and Alex knew they were treading dangerous ground. As the night deepened, the group scattered, some to their tents, others to grab more drinks. Jamie lingered, pulling Alex aside to help gather firewood. "You've been off lately," Jamie said, his tone light but probing. "Everything okay with you?" Alex's heart thudded. "Yeah, just work stress," he muttered, avoiding Jamie's eyes. The lie tasted sour, but the truth was unthinkable. Jamie clapped him on the shoulder, his trust unwavering, and Alex felt the guilt sink deeper, a weight he couldn't shake. Later, when Jamie headed to his tent to grab a jacket, Alex found himself alone by the lake with Ryan. The water reflected the moon's pale glow, and the silence between them was heavy, charged with everything they hadn't said. Ryan stepped closer, his voice low. "I can't keep doing this, Alex. Pretending everything's normal when I'm around you." Alex's pulse raced. "Then stop," he snapped, harsher than he meant. "We're going to ruin everything. Jamie doesn't deserve this." Ryan's eyes flashed with frustration. "You think I don't know that? But I'm falling for you, and it's tearing me apart." The confession hung in the air, raw and reckless. Alex froze, torn between the urge to pull Ryan close and the fear of what it would cost. The judgment of their friends, the loss of Jamie, the shame he'd carried since his family's rejection. It all loomed larger than ever. "Don't say that," Alex whispered, stepping back. "We can't. Not here. Not ever." But his voice wavered, betraying the part of him that wanted to give in. Ryan reached out, his fingers brushing Alex's wrist, and the touch sent a shiver through him, rekindling the memory of their stolen moments. Before either could say more, footsteps crunched behind them. Alex yanked his hand away as one of their friends, Sarah, appeared, her eyes narrowing. "You guys okay out here?" she asked, her tone laced with suspicion. Alex's stomach dropped. Sarah had never been shy about her conservative views, her comments about keeping things traditional, a constant reminder of why Alex stayed guarded. "Yeah, just talking," Ryan said quickly, but Sarah's gaze lingered, sharp and untrusting. She nodded and walked away, but the moment left, Alex rattled. If she suspected anything, it wouldn't stay quiet. Their friend group thrived on gossip, and being openly gay in their circle was a risk Alex had never fully taken. The rest of the night passed in a blur of forced smiles and strained conversation. Alex stuck close to Jamie, hoping his friend's presence would ground him. But every brush of Ryan's shoulder or fleeting glance sent his heart racing. By the time they all retreated to their tents, Alex's nerves were frayed. He lay awake, staring at the canvas ceiling, the weight of their secret pressing down. He knew they were on borrowed time, and the thought of Jamie finding out, of losing the one person who'd stood by him through everything, was unbearable. The next morning, as the group hiked to a nearby ridge, Jamie's mood shifted. He was quieter, his usual jokes replaced by distracted silences. At one point, he caught Alex's eye, his expression unreadable. "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" he asked, his voice low. Alex's throat tightened. Of course, he lied, the words burning his tongue. Jamie nodded, but the doubt in his eyes was new, a crack in the trust they'd built over years. Alex glanced at Ryan, who was trailing behind, his face shadowed with the same guilt Alex felt. The tension was a living thing now, coiling tighter with every step, and Alex knew it was only a matter of time before it snapped. As the group paused for lunch, Sarah's voice cut through the chatter, sharp and pointed. "So, Ryan, you and Jamie seem off lately. Everything good?" The question was casual, but her eyes flicked to Alex, and he felt the accusation like a physical blow. Ryan brushed it off with a laugh, but the damage was done. The group was watching now, their whispers growing louder, and Alex realized the secret he and Ryan shared was no longer just theirs. The storm was coming, and when it hit, it would tear everything apart. The air in Jamie's small Seattle apartment was thick with tension, the kind that settles before a storm breaks. Alex stood by the window, staring at the rain-slicked street below, his heart pounding as Jamie set plates on the table for their dinner. It had been a week since the camping trip, and the suspicion in Sarah's eyes still haunted him. Every moment with Jamie felt like walking on glass, one wrong step away from shattering everything. Ryan was due to arrive any minute, and the thought of facing him in front of Jamie made Alex's stomach churn. Jamie's voice broke the silence, cheerful but strained. "You sure you're okay, Alex? You've been weird since the trip." He placed a bowl of salad on the table, his movements deliberate, as if he sensed something was off but wasn't ready to name it. "I'm fine," Alex said, forcing a smile. The lie tasted bitter, heavier than ever. He'd tried to pull back from Ryan, to stop the secret meetings and late-night texts, but the pull between them was relentless. Every glance, every accidental touch, only deepened the betrayal. Alex hated himself for it, but he couldn't stop. The doorbell buzzed, and Jamie opened it to let Ryan in. Alex's pulse spiked as their eyes met, a fleeting moment charged with everything they weren't saying. Ryan's nod was curt, his posture stiff, as if he too felt the weight of their secret. "Hey," he said, his voice carefully neutral. But Alex caught the flicker of conflict in his gaze. Dinner started with forced normalcy. Jamie filled the silence with stories about work, his laughter a stark contrast to the undercurrent of unease. Alex picked at his food, barely listening, his attention split between Jamie's oblivious warmth and Ryan's quiet intensity across the table. Every time their knees brushed under the table, Alex's breath caught, a reminder of the line they'd crossed too many times. When Jamie stepped into the kitchen to grab dessert, the air grew heavier. Alex and Ryan sat in silence, the unspoken truth pressing down like a physical weight. "This is killing me," Ryan whispered, his voice low and urgent. "We can't keep pretending." Alex's hands clenched in his lap. "We don't have a choice," he hissed, glancing toward the kitchen. "If Jamie finds out, it's over. Everything." Ryan leaned closer, his voice barely audible. "I'm not sure I can stop, Alex. Not when it feels like this." The words hit like a spark, igniting the part of Alex that wanted to give in, to forget Jamie and their friends' judgmental whispers. But the guilt was stronger, a constant reminder of the friend he was betraying. Before he could respond, Jamie's footsteps returned, and they both straightened, the moment swallowed by silence. Jamie set a tray of cookies on the table, his smile fading as he looked between them. "What's going on?" he asked, his tone sharp now, no longer playful. "You two have been acting strange all night." Alex's heart stopped. He opened his mouth to deflect, but the words wouldn't come. Ryan shifted, his hands gripping the edge of the table, but he stayed silent. The room felt smaller, the air thick with accusation. "Jamie, it's nothing," Alex managed, his voice unsteady. But Jamie's eyes narrowed, searching his face, then Ryan's. The trust that had always defined their friendship was fraying, and Alex could see it unraveling in real time. "Don't lie to me," Jamie said, his voice rising. "I'm not stupid. I've seen the way you look at each other, the way you pull away when I'm around. Just tell me the truth." The words hung in the air, a challenge Alex couldn't escape. His throat tightened, the guilt he'd carried for weeks threatening to choke him. He glanced at Ryan, hoping for a way out, but Ryan's face was pale, his eyes fixed on the table. There was no hiding anymore. "Jamie," Alex started, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry. It happened once. A kiss. We didn't mean for it to go further, but it did." The confession spilled out, each word a blade cutting deeper. It was a mistake. Jamie's face crumpled, a mix of shock and betrayal flashing in his eyes. "A mistake?" he repeated, his voice shaking. "You kissed my boyfriend, Alex, my best friend." He turned to Ryan, his hands trembling. "And you. How could you do this?" Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came. The silence was deafening, broken only by Jamie's ragged breathing. "How long?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "How long have you been lying to me?" "A few weeks," Alex admitted, his own voice trembling. "We tried to stop. We knew it was wrong." Jamie laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Tried to stop? You betrayed me, both of you." He stood, his chair scraping against the floor. "I trusted you, Alex. You were like family. And you—" He turned to Ryan, his eyes brimming with tears. "I thought you loved me." "I do," Ryan said, his voice breaking. "But I feel something for Alex, too. I didn't want this to happen." Jamie shook his head, stepping back. "Get out, both of you." His voice was cold now, final. "I can't even look at you." Alex stood, his legs unsteady, the weight of Jamie's words crushing him. Ryan hesitated, then followed, his shoulders slumped. As they left the apartment, the door slamming behind them, the reality of what they'd done settled like ash. They'd lost Jamie, maybe forever, and the fragile world they'd built was in ruins. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and silent. Alex turned to Ryan, anger and guilt warring inside him. "What do we do now?" he asked, his voice hollow. Ryan's eyes met his, filled with the same conflict. "I don't know," he said, "but we can't go back." Alex walked away, the cold air biting at his skin, but the pain inside was sharper. The truth was out, and the cost was everything. He didn't know what came next, but one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same. The Seattle drizzle clung to Alex's jacket as he walked through Capitol Hill, the city's hum a dull backdrop to the chaos in his mind. It had been 2 weeks since the confrontation at Jamie's apartment. 2 weeks since the truth about his betrayal with Ryan shattered their friendship. The silence from Jamie was deafening. His absence a void Alex felt with every step. Their friend group had turned cold, whispers of judgment trailing him like a shadow. Alex had lost more than Jamie. He'd lost the fragile acceptance he'd fought for in their conservative circle. He stopped outside a small community center, its windows glowing with warm light. A sign read, "LGBTQ plus support group. All welcome." Alex hesitated, his hand hovering over the door. The guilt of what he'd done to Jamie still gnawed at him, but so did the shame he'd carried for years. Shame from a family that rejected him, from friends who judged what they didn't understand. Maybe here, he could find a way to face himself. Inside, the group was small, a dozen people seated in a circle, their voices soft but open. Alex lingered at the back, listening as a man named Marcus shared his story of coming out to a family that didn't accept him. The words hit close, stirring memories of his own parents' cold dismissal. When it was Alex's turn, he froze, the weight of his betrayal choking his words. But the group's quiet encouragement pulled him forward. "I hurt someone I care about," he said, his voice low. "My best friend. I got involved with his boyfriend. It was wrong, and I can't undo it." The confession felt like peeling back a wound, but the group listened without judgment. A woman across the circle nodded, her eyes kind. "We've all made mistakes," she said. "The hard part is learning to live with them." The meeting left Alex raw but lighter, as if he'd taken the first step toward something new. He started attending weekly, each session chipping away at the walls he'd built to survive. The stories he heard, of rejection, resilience, and small victories, gave him a glimpse of a life where he didn't have to hide. For the first time, he saw his identity not as a burden, but as a truth worth embracing. Ryan reached out once, a hesitant text. "Can we talk?" Alex stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of him ached to see Ryan, to cling to the connection that had felt so real. But he knew it was a tether to the past, one that would only pull him back into the mess they'd made. "We're done," he typed, his fingers trembling. "We need to let go." He hit send and deleted the thread, a small act of closure that hurt more than he expected. Meanwhile, Alex heard through mutual friends that Ryan had started therapy, grappling with his own guilt and confusion. The news brought a strange mix of relief and sorrow. They'd both lost Jamie, but maybe they could find their own paths forward. Alex hoped Ryan would find peace, even if it wasn't with him. The hardest part was facing the fallout with their friend group. Sarah's whispers had spread, turning curiosity into judgment. At a coffee shop meetup, Alex overheard her talking about people who can't be trusted. The word stung, but he refused to shrink away. "If you've got something to say it to me," he said, his voice steady despite the knot in his chest. Sarah faltered, her silence a small victory. Alex knew he couldn't change their minds, but he was done hiding to fit in. Weeks turned into months, and Alex kept showing up to the support group, each meeting a step toward self-acceptance. He made new connections, people who saw him without judgment, who celebrated his truth instead of questioning it. One evening, as he shared a laugh with Marcus over coffee after a meeting, Alex felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't the life he'd planned, but it was one he could build, piece by piece. Jamie remained a ghost in his thoughts. Alex drafted a dozen messages to him, apologies that felt too small for the pain he'd caused. He never sent them, knowing Jamie needed space, maybe forever. The loss was a wound that would take time to heal. But Alex carried it as a reminder of the cost of betrayal and the value of honesty, even when it came too late. One night, walking home under a clearing sky, Alex paused to watch the city lights reflect off the wet pavement. The weight of his mistakes still lingered, but so did the possibility of something better. He was learning to live openly, to embrace the parts of himself he'd once buried. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, Alex felt ready to face it, not as the person he'd pretended to be, but as himself. The story ends not with a tidy resolution, but with a quiet promise. Betrayal leaves scars, but it doesn't define you. Alex's journey was just beginning, and though the path was steep, he walked it with a newfound strength, ready to build a life where love, trust, and truth could coexist.